PCBs and mercury. Yeah.
From my.
A lot of it's fallout from the Ohio River Valley. All the weather comes from over there, and they burn coal a lot.
Coal.
And so, so the heavy metals end up raining down on us. Plus, we've had some, stuff going on around here that was also industries.
I'm just gonna, I think people are still coming in, so maybe just wait for them a few moments and then we'll get
I
started.
didn't think that way up here, it's supposedly no pollution. You can't eat the fish.
Oh.
It's sad.
Hi.
You just oh.
Well, you can't.
Is that an inside joke there? I don't actually need a shower. It's just an inside joke.
With this thing here, which I love actually the sound of, but I don't hear you guys that well, just so you know. We'll speak up. Yes. So, this is my first time doing this. Except for in retreat when you were there. And the topic, Ben, is like, what do you want to talk about? And I was just in a moment where I was really trusting the universe. So that's the one I picked. And of course today I'm not necessarily quite there, but I think it's still perfect to work with. And I'm going to read you the questions that I said. So I had some questions that I was going to explore with you. One of them is, how can I be with each moment the way it is? And then the other one is, how can I accept myself just the way I am in this moment? How can I realize that I have no control over the conditions that present themselves right now and know things are already the way they are? So that sometimes I may have this idea of how the moment's supposed to be, and I'm fighting with it. And it's already the way it is. So fighting with it is sort of silly. By the moment I'm fighting with it, it's already passed. And then the other one, and that one I'm going to explore with you when we start meditating. How can I meditate in a way that I don't manipulate myself or do violence to self? The first one, well, the second one actually, how can I accept myself the way I am right now? Well, right now I'm a little bit nervous, and I could really be mortified by that, or I can just be curious about it. And so when I'm curious about nervousness, I can feel it right here in my rib cage. And it's like a little trembly feeling. And as I move my arms, I can feel that too. And actually, when I don't have a lot of judgment about it, it's not that unpleasant. It's just a little bit of a trembly feeling. Not that bad. But if I have a judgment, if I need to be perfectly calm, perfectly enlightened in order to be sitting up here, well then, that nervousness would not be good. Then I would have some judgment, and that would be like the second arrow. So why do I pick that topic about trusting? Is it because I'm so amazing at trusting? Actually, it's probably because trust is one of the most difficult things for me. I grew up in a family in which there were many betrayals. And so even though I didn't know it about myself, when you grow up in a certain situation, it's like a fish in the water. It's just how it is, You don't think of it as bad, good, or it should be different when you're a young child. It's just how it is. So I didn't really know I had difficulties trusting until later. And but because of that difficulty, actually when I do a practice in which I practice trusting the universe, I also get the most benefit from it. So what I want to offer today is, when we work together, is that when I guide the meditation, if it doesn't feel like the practice that is perfect for you today, pick what works for you today. So trust you in that moment. And so let's say, I think what I'm gonna do, because for me, this is the practice that works, is I will probably start working with being in the body and with restful states and relaxing. But if that's, if you actually would rather have a practice that's more challenging or something like that, well, you could use the challenge if I'm not providing what you like. And then you work with that, So almost anything that presents itself can be just the right, perfect thing to work with right then. And that's my practice. So you don't have to follow everything I say. You don't even have to believe anything I say. It's just that if some of my words are useful for you, great. If some of them are like, I'm not sure about that, but I'd like to consider it and maybe I'll put it on a shelf for later. You can do that. Or, no, that doesn't work for me. And then noticing that. So you can have the whole range of reactions or responses to what I'm offering today, and they're all fine. And they're all perfect for how you are working today. And that would be your practice of being who you are today and trusting that. And to not fight with yourself and say, because I'm sitting up here, you should believe and trust everything I say. No, that's not the case. It's always about what's coming in from me and then checking it with how it resonates inside. And now it's sort of tricky to know because sometimes the ego can fight with almost anything, right? So, and that voice, not that I say that you want to be unkind to it, but that voice you may not want to believe. And how, you may be like, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to put that a little bit like, maybe you're right, maybe you're not right. But there is something inside of us that even though it may not make sense to us in the moment, it is our authentic self, and that's to trust that. And how do we distinguish? Well, hopefully as we meditate, you get more clear about which one is which. And so the other part about trust is kindness. And I brought some poems with me today because I was like, well, what if I completely blank out? Which could happen when somebody's nervous, right? But also because this poem really touches me, and I think I'll be able to say something deeper about kindness right after. So I'll read that to you, and it's about and it's by Rachel. No, it's not Rachel. Naomi Shihab. And it's called Kindness. And some of you might know this. It's just such a beautiful poem. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment, like salt in a leaking broth. What you held in your hands, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plants and a simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside. You must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows. And you see his eyes for the cloud. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out onto the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, it is you I have been looking for. And then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. And I might read it again when the sorrow is not so thick, but every time I read this poem, I do remember the sorrow. Because it is out of that sorrow inside me that this deep kindness lives with me in each moment now too. And there is moments I forget, and I just did yesterday, my friend Stephen and I talked about that, where I've been working through the whole day and I didn't give myself a break. And I've just been sick, quite sick actually, a week or two ago, and I'm still healing. Can you guys hear me?
Barely.
Barely, okay. Maybe we should close that.
I see if I can move something.
Yeah, not that. Or I can also come closer. Friend Michael, let me know if that's gonna work. That's better.
I was wondering.
Is this still working? Okay, good. All right,
Thank
much
you.
better.
Thank you.
Good. I'm so sorry. I naturally have a low voice. I'm going to try to project a little more. But anyway, whenever I read this poem, Kindness by Rachel Naomi, should I read it again? Have you guys heard it, or should I read it again? Doesn't matter.
I didn't hear much
Read
of
it
it,
again. You didn't hear much of it?
But
Okay.
I wouldn't
Why do
mind
I read it?
having you send me the poem or something.
Okay. So before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. So I'm going to break it down now, okay? You'll feel the future dissolve in a moment. We've all had moments like that, haven't we? Where we so carefully planned, and we so expected that future we planned, and then it was no longer there. So what you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go, so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. So when you lose like that, it can get very desolate, can't it? It can get very, very stark for a while there. And yet, when kindness comes after a time like that, you know why it's so important. So that's why I'm reading this poem. She says, how, and you know, this, I imagine it's in Mexico, how you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. That can be any one of us. And so that realization, when I just got this sick, there was a moment, it was an infection of some kind, and I really don't like taking antibiotics, so I really waited. And then there was a moment where it went over the edge, and where my thinking got very unclear, my body very weak, and I was really confused. And I remember feeling so bad in my body that I was like, I really knew that if it went in that direction much further, I could die. And when I felt that, I got pretty scared actually. Not because there was a part of me, my body felt so bad, I was like, I'm ready. But because I was in a strange city, I was in Austin, I was near nobody I really knew, my loved ones, and I was really attached to being able to say goodbye to them. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting myself to the hospital, I'm getting some antibiotics, and I don't care. I'm getting better, you know, and somehow I rallied to the strength, and I did it. And you know, why didn't I ask for help? It's because of the family I grew up in. You know, I'm so used to waiting and waiting until it's really bad. And then, you know, and it was nice. The front desk people did call a cab for me, and I got, you know, and the people, once I got to the hospital, they were very kind and they helped me right away. And it wasn't as if people weren't willing to help, you know. It's just that I waited to let anybody know because of my patterns, you know. So it's also, are we open to receiving kindness versus giving kindness only? It's always has got to be both. And so knowing that this life is precious and that it's not going to go on forever, you know. So the last paragraph is really beautiful too. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows. And it just did before that, 2 sentences before, didn't it? Inside me, it was catching all sorrows. And there's something beautiful about that. And when we realize that I'm not the only person who has experienced sorrow, that almost all human beings will at some time in their life, unless they just live too short maybe, you know, but all human beings will experience sorrow. And when I know that, then I get out of my isolation, out of my depression, out of my somehow it's just me, or I'm special, or, you know, and I realize that I'm connected to all of life, even in this sorrow too. And when I know that, then the practice that I do to heal that sorrow, the kindness that I do, is not only healing me, it's not a selfish thing. I am healing the world. And so that's the beautiful thing about kindness to self. It's not a selfish thing. It's about healing that thread, that connection that we have to everything. Because every being will have sorrow at some moment. So you must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows. And you see the size of the cloth. Then it's only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes. And sends you out into the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that raises its head, you know, when you wake up in the morning. From the crowd of the world to say. So it's only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, it's you I've been looking for. I love that, you know, like it raises its head from the crowd of the world and saying, I've been looking for you. You know, I've been looking for you. I've been looking for you and for you. I love that. And then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. And so that's what this practice does, mindfulness. It can be like that, where it can be your friend all the time, where it can witness whatever comes up. And that's how I'm okay with how I am in the moment, no matter what happens. So even when that ugly thought comes up in me, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, and I understand where it comes from. I understand that maybe I just had a difficult few moments and I'm tight inside my body, and therefore I wish something not so kind to somebody else because I'm not kind to me. Or somebody was just unkind to me and I'm just like feeling like I want to crumble inside and like I'm unlovable, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, others have felt that too. This is the human condition. This is not just me. This is what all of us sometimes experience. And the moment I do that, I'm witnessing that little being inside, because usually it's a small child that feels that way. It's the little one inside of us that feels that way. And I can be kind to it like a mom. Now, I have a lot of experience being a mom, so for you, it may not be a mom. And for me, that really worked, but it may be your really good friend who, when you call them, that they're like, oh, of course you feel like that. Of course you had that reaction in the moment, and of course you're sad about that right now. And, I know you. I know you are a loving human being, and I know that that was just a momentary lapse, or whatever your friend would say, right? Or maybe it's your auntie, your favorite grandmother, or who knows who it is. But that person that knows how to be just so loving to you when you are most ashamed, when you are most in pain, when whatever comes up, that's the voice you bring to those moments. Or that's the voice I bring to those moments. And then I'm okay with who I am in that moment. Or when things outside are not just right, like it's so cold, for me. Everybody saw you keep Zendo. I'm like, oh my God, like I have everything and I just want to tighten up against it, And then when I have my later on, I finally give in. I put the electric blanket around, Even when I just brought the blankets before that, when you meditate for a while, and you're relaxed, then that heat comes up. The body somehow knows. I know how to do that with heat. Like I grew up in South America, so I remember like when I worked at the rehab I used to work with people who had addictions. And they, they're just detoxing, and then there was no air conditioning, and they'd be like, oh my God, it's so hot. And my body was so good at just regulating with heat because I had grown up in that environment. And and I would say, I would help them learn how to meditate, and we would do a relaxation meditation. They say, oh, it's funny. It's not so hot anymore. So the body really does know how to adjust the temperature outside if we only give it a chance, if we're not fighting with our mind so hard against these conditions outside ourselves, And it's so funny how much of the time I find myself doing that. It's gotten a lot less, but and usually when I don't fight, it's just wonderful. Each moment is really okay. Even, at the beginning of that illness, when I was feeling pretty badly, my body was, but I wasn't fighting. And it was actually okay. It was okay. It was as it started progressing and I started getting scared and I'm like, I shouldn't feel this way, that it became worse. Right. Oh, beautiful exclamation point. The topic today is how to trust the universe. So I'm trusting everything. So there's nothing to be sorry for. And, trusting that we have this beautiful background sound already, the rain, that is calming for most human beings, not all. For some of you, it might be really annoying, but for some of it, it's like this calming sound. And so maybe I'm going to start going into the meditation now, and we're going to use that. And again, I'm going to repeat it like, so whatever I do with the guided meditation, if it works for you, great, follow it. If the content doesn't work for you, usually my tone of voice, and people have said that, is soothing for most people, then use that. If it's not soothing for you, if it's irritating, then use that. Meaning that whatever comes up with how I lead, you can use it, and you have, I know all of you here have a practice that you can work with, and then use your own practice. So and if something I do really is helpful, wonderful. So beginning by finding a position on the floor or on your chair that is really comfortable for you, where you feel supported, and at the same time where your back can be relatively straight so that your breath can easily move in and out. And the way Soryu says it is, well, I don't know how he's saying it actually right now, but basically lengthening the spine, and you could imagine as if heaven had a gravity as well, so that it's really easy to do that. You don't have to use force. And imagine it at the top of the crown of your head and the back here, almost like there's a string pulling you up and a golden white light. And at the same time, allow your body to be supported by the earth. Allow it to sink in. Allow gravity to hold you. And giving your full weight to your chair or the floor, both. And with each exhale, letting your body sink a little deeper into the earth. And with each inhale, remembering that heaven gravity as well, that beautiful golden white light, pulling your spine up. And if my voice is so soothing that you fall asleep, again, let's trust the universe and just see if you can be aware that you're falling asleep and notice it. And then the moment you wake up, it's perfect. You're here again. Or if you don't want to be asleep, then you can always stand behind your chair or whatever you need to do, but don't have to do anything on my account. I'm going to trust that you're going to get exactly what you need today. And so as you might be following your in-breath and your out-breath and feeling supported and feeling upright, you can keep making micro adjustments so that you are just comfortable in the right way in this moment. Or you can accept that you're not comfortable. And how does that work? Get curious about that. Notice, maybe get curious exactly where you feel the discomfort. And then match it with kindness. And that can look in many different ways. It could be that voice of that friend, I'm here with you. It's okay. You can make it through this discomfort. Or it could be a part of your body that feels really comfortable. And you really bring your awareness to that. Get curious about how that feels. Is it a warmth, a softness, a relaxation, a lack of sensation, whatever it is, a flow. And then allow that comfort to be there for the part that's not comfortable. And for you, it's easier to just stick with one thing, like the breath. And do that. But what I'm guiding you in, it's an open awareness in a way. Is to be aware of what's happening in this moment. And to choose if you let it comfort you. And if it doesn't comfort you, how you are with that discomfort. If you can bring kindness to that. And that can go for anything that's happening, whether it's thoughts, whether you're hearing the thoughts or seeing them, whether it's sounds outside, whether it's images you're looking at. in your mind's eye, or if your eyes are open right outside, or sensation in the body. Being with what's happening right now. And if it's hard to be with what's happening right now, whether it's inside or outside, bringing kindness to that. You may find that you have an intention to practice in a certain way, and yet your mind is not practicing that way. Notice how you bring yourself back. And if you are manipulating at all, and if you are, drop it. Maybe even drop the meditator. And just be with what is. So if there's any force in it, any unkindness, let it go. And come back to what's happening now. In a way that feels natural. And those may be easier said than done, so no force. Even if the mind just wanders for a little while, until you find, oh yeah, raindrops. And perhaps as you hear the raindrops, something shifts in your body. And then you notice that. And again, if you have a practice where you need to concentrate first, before you can work this way, by all means do that. Coming back to this moment. And letting everything be the way it is. No control, no force. Because it is already the way it is anyway. And if you don't know how to let go, just follow the exhale. Notice how it naturally lets go of the breath each time. And if your body, if your being is enjoying something, let it happen. Let yourself enjoy the sounds of the rain, the feeling of gravity pulling you. The moist air flowing in, the cooler air. Whatever it is that your body, your being enjoys in this moment. Without grasping, without pushing away, just being with that. Or if the opposite is happening, there's a discomfort, or a pain, or something unpleasant, some thoughts. Same thing. Don't push away. Don't grasp. Just notice. And notice how it keeps shifting, how it keeps changing. And if it's really hard to be with, or even if it's a little hard to be with, bring kindness. Bring kindness to it. can I let everything be the way it is? Trust the universe. Let it be. How can I just let go of the futile attempt to control the conditions outside me right now? And even that mind, that wild mind. Just be aware with kindness. Knowing that awareness is kind anyway. If it isn't kind, it's actually something that's smaller than what you are. So keep stepping back to watch. And so letting everything be as it is doesn't mean we're unkind to our bodies. Sometimes our bodies do need adjustment. And it's sometimes hard to know because some pains do go away as we calm, as we rest, as we stay still. But we can always make those micro adjustments. And if that doesn't work, anything done with awareness is meditation. So just moving with awareness if you need. noticing right now. Maybe it's the body. The feeling, the sound, an image. Or all of them at once. Or in short succession of one another. Letting all that you notice flow in and out of fullness. As it does anyway. A sound comes into being and ends. A sensation comes into being and ends. Always moving, always changing. And watching, noticing, feeling, seeing, hearing. There also may be emotions. Just notice them as body sensation, how they're different. And we may sometimes not want them to be there, but then if there are those kind of emotions, bringing kindness to them. And sometimes kindness is letting that emotion give a little space and then listening to the birds. So I can't tell you what kindness is. You can be curious about what is kind in this moment. Until that emotion tugs at you again and says, I actually need a little attention. So that's what I'm talking about, trusting the universe, trusting that if something needs to be seen, heard, felt, you will keep coming back until you see, feel, or hear it. Truly are with it. letting this moment be the way it is, letting myself be the way I am, letting this sensation be the way it is, that sound, this feeling, that image. And then shifting to coming back to the room, being calm, taking all the time you need. If your eyes are closed, you can take your time opening them. If you want to stretch, if you want to stand, doing what's kind, what's good in this moment. And I'm opening it up to maybe half an hour of questions, thoughts, sharings, and then we'll do another half hour, so 20 minutes, yeah, maybe something like that. We'll play it by ear. And if I find that there are no sharings, questions, thoughts right now, then we'll go right into our next meditation session too. So we'll see What was it like? Can you hear me enough in the back? No, so I need to talk a little louder for the next session. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it was if I was doing it right or not, but when I would make my head empty, my mind would keep filling it with unbidden images, kind of like dreams, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like. I'm not sure if I was just falling asleep, but I could still hear everything.
Nice.
So should I try and keep those away as much as possible and try and stay as empty as possible, or just let them be there?
What was the experience like for you? Was it pleasant or unpleasant?
It was kind of like drifting, and then I would realize that I was drifting, and then I would kind of bring myself back.
Did you bring yourself back with kindness, or were you like, oh God, I'm doing it wrong, or how?
No.
I'm just, okay, good. Yeah.
Gently.
Gently, nice. So to me, you know, there's different philosophies, obviously. But to me, if you're still aware and you're drifting a little bit, I have heard, you know, like yoga nidra and things like that, that happens a lot. It's sort of like the theta waves of the brain. And actually, it's a very healing state where a lot of things heal. Some people might not call it technically meditation, but because we are doing, you know, because of what I'm doing today, and saying trust the universe and go with what's coming up, to me, it's perfect. You know, for some reason, maybe your brain right now needed some healing or some other part of your body, and you did that. And so sort of trusting that. Now, some people might not be comfortable with that, but you know, you'll have to judge if you're okay with that. But in my life, trusting that has brought me to much deeper states of meditation. So not fighting when my mind drifts like that, but staying aware. When I can do that for some time and not actually completely fall asleep. I mean, you know, sometimes I fall completely asleep and, oh well, then, you know, I'll start again, you know, but that's okay. So it's not the end of the world either, like no judgment about that. But if I can stay with that drifting state for a while, at a certain point, my mind will get clear. And then I will have this amazing sort of wide open awareness, and it's very pleasant and very open and very clear. So it's almost like something is clearing out for me when that happens.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, you know, and other people might have different experiences in the room about that. And so I would say, again, you don't have to trust my experience. You know, trust your own. So I'd be very curious about other people and what their experiences are, or, you know, but again, do you feel more calm, more clear, more here right now than you did before we came before?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it worked for you.
Did something.
Did something, right? So that's my whole theme today. It's about beginning to trust our experience, that we always think we have to control it and manipulate it, and to trust that there's such a thing as awareness that is actually there, that we can't actually even get rid of. We may forget it, we may get caught in our experience that's, you know, maybe a lower level awareness than awareness, and forget that we have this wider open natural openness, but that it's there, that we don't have to make it happen, that when we begin to clear out the stuff, it will naturally show itself. So that's one way of seeing it. And again, people have different philosophies. You don't have to buy mine. Test for yourself. Yeah.
I found I was initially very annoyed by the drip. And because I love to hear the rain and the leaves and the birds and everything. So I did a number of different things with it. First I made it the focus of my meditation. And it ceased to be something, neither good nor bad. It just was something to focus on. So that felt really good. And then I found that I could shift my focus to my breath at the tip of my nose, and it wouldn't bother me. It could be just out there. Or if I really wanted to hear the rain and the leaves and the birds, I could do that. So there was nothing about that drumming that stopped me in any way.
Wow.
So that was a good experience, to go through that cycle.
Sounds to me you're very kind in your experimentation and found just what works for you.
Yes, your kindness and encouragement was very much appreciated.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was kind to the drumming drip.
Very cool. And maybe even kind with your annoyance about it, you know?
Yeah. I didn't judge myself. For that.
Yeah.
I just made it the focus of my meditation, and the irritation just melted away.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It felt good, and your encouragement and your guidance was very nice. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm happy. I'm so happy it worked for you.
Thank you.
Very, very enjoyable, thank you.
Oh, cool.
And I found my sense of hearing was heightened. And like Andrea too, it was distracting at first, that trip. I love to be distracted. But then I just let it be in the background, and then my focus came on this beautiful song, bird song. It was like it was right in my ear, and it lightened my heart so much. It was just like, that's what kindness feels like. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, what do you notice right now when you said that?
I'm
What do
sorry?
you notice right now when you say that?
What do I notice right now?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just filled up with joy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I noticed that when I'm speaking with you. I can just, it's beautiful. Oh.
Needed that.
Anybody else? Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I really appreciated your guidance and just the kindness that you embody. You know, you talk about kindness, and anybody can say the word kindness, but I feel like it's just you're living it, being in your presence, and I greatly appreciate that. For me, I really let my attention wander. I allowed it to wander, which is very different from most focus spaces that I use, which are usually very, something very specific. So it was really nice to just say, okay, I'm gonna go anywhere I want and just keep the awareness, but drift around. And one thing that I found really useful in that process was just anything that my attention would fall upon, I would just say in my head, I love you. So if I noticed the sound of the dripping, I would tell it, I love you. If I felt frustration, I would tell the frustration, I love you. If I felt like an itch in my foot, I would just tell it, I love you. And I think it was your presence that really brought me deeply into that. So I thank you.
Wow. And what do you feel like right now, mindfulness?
I feel like I love you.
I feel that too. I can see in your face, it's so soft and so open. Yeah. Like your open awareness itself almost. Yeah. And my judgment again, like sometimes I say these things because it just is what I notice, but one doesn't have to believe me either, you know, like you can say, I like that, or I don't like it, or it fits, or it doesn't fit. Doesn't have to be the truth. It's just what I notice. So when I say I notice your joy, it just means, yeah.
Oh, I wanted to thank you for that poem, which I've loved that poem since I first heard it a number of years ago. And she came to Burlington. I don't know if you saw her. She was very similar to what you were doing tonight. She was just this very generous, kind presence.
Oh.
And I love that poem because for a lot of reasons, but I love the part where she talks about sometimes it's only kindness that gets you up in the morning and you tie your shoes and you go out and you look for bread. There's something so wonderful about that because it's about being simple. I mean, so much of the time, I feel, and I think other people too, feel like we have to do big things and we have to be better than we are. And in fact, our lives are just a gift of sometimes just getting up and tying your shoes and through losing, you know, just to be brokenhearted and still get up and tie your shoes. Yeah. Is how it begins, you know, it opens you to the world. You go out, you do it, you go, you get up. So I thought it was perfect that you started the evening with that.
Thank you. I feel like the way you just explained it made it even deeper for me, you know? Because it's such a deep poem to me, so deep. Because I think kindness is not something we can take for granted. And it is actually, on some level, I think, our deepest nature. But we forget that until we get stripped naked. You know, and then we know there really is nothing else that is more important than that, you know. Maybe some people call it love, people call it truth, goodness, beauty, whatever we call it, right? But that essence of what we are. And in my practice, I had to learn how to be kind because I just had so much pain sitting for many, many years, you know, because of the diseases that came. And I just was like, I gotta be kind. Otherwise, I'm just not gonna keep doing this, you know, like, and yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And the other thing about kindness, I think too, is that how are we gonna make this world a better place unless we are kind, you know? Because I just remember, like, I was an activist very young, you know, like 22, I remember. And there was this young teenage boy, maybe he was 19 or maybe he was maybe younger, but he was there and he was on the opposing side. And we were in Florida and we were at the center where they launched the rockets, what do you call them?
The shuttle.
They basically had plutonium in there because they were trying to get rid of it somewhere in outer space.
Okay.
And, you know, this is before the bursting happened and people really believed that could happen. And if it had happened, we would have poisoned the whole earth with plutonium, you know, like it would have been really bad. And so we were demonstrating against them launching that right at the center. And so the opposing people are like, yeah, progress, you know, we need to be able to send these rockets into space, and, you know, you guys are inhibiting it. But there was this young man, and I remember, like, seeing him just as myself in that moment, you know, just having a different opinion. And I remember we had this amazing, lovely talk, and it seemed like he really was beginning to see my side, and I was beginning to see why he didn't really believe it could break. And he really believed we should just get rid of the plutonium up there. And he was really excited about this project or whatever, you know, so there was an understanding. And then his father came and was very angry and started pointing at me and putting finger toward my chest. And I started getting so angry, and I could see this young man's eyes glaze over. And I was like, oh, this is not how we're going to change the world. That what he and I were doing, which it came through grace. I honestly don't think I was super wise at that time, although I did have some wisdom. I don't know where that came from, but, you know, I remember it really stuck, like, we're not going to change the world through hating each other. This is not going to work. And, you know, do I still love to hate my favorite? Hating, not favorite. I have specific politicians I love to hate. And I project all kinds of things on them. And the truth is, even them, if they do end up winning, our best hope is sending love. You know? Because we can't, you know, it never works, hate. It never works. And so, and as I say that, I can feel myself fighting already, you know, because I don't want that to happen. And I will do everything in my power to keep these things from happening, but I don't have a lot of power. And that's the truth. And when I live my life thinking I can control these things, then I'm miserable. And I have very little energy left to actually do the things I do have control over, like loving you, and trying to understand you, and you understand me, and maybe we shifted a little bit, reality, shifted a little. And if a lot of us do that, we could have heaven on earth right now. We could. We really could. And I think we're so mad at ourselves that we're not having it, because some of us, we know very deep inside that we could have it right now. And so that's the thing we have to let go of. And be very kind with ourselves. Because, I mean, if you look at this earth, how beautiful it is, and how gorgeous and true humanity is, my goodness. You know, it would be so beautiful. And yes, old age, death, illness would still be here. But all the other stuff that we've created, it doesn't need to be here. You know, all the unfairness, all the unkindness, all the poisoning. Yeah. And yeah, the natural suffering would always still be here. You know, and that's normal. That's part of life. But that stuff. Oh. Anyway, I could go on. Anybody else? That's loud, huh? I mean, if we have to, we can close the window again, you know, so if you want. And so that's the funny thing about, we do have that amount of control. So I'm just letting you know. Close it? Okay.
Cool off.
Okay.
Do that one.
And we leave that one open. Yeah, good, good. All right.
That's a lot quieter. Much quieter.
Much quieter, yeah.
Could we open that back door again?
We could.
Profit.
Anyway, again, that's my belief, you know, like there is a sense of me, an intuition in me that knows, And Thich Nhat Hanh, maybe I got that from Thich Nhat Hanh too. And then my other teacher, Patricia's son, they, and I somehow found these teachers that believe that heaven is here right now, you know? And maybe even that's what Jesus was saying, that it is here right now. And